Today, I'm gonna show you how to make the best taco truck style carne asada tacos of your life. I'll show you the secret that I use to get the steak melt in your mouth tender, along with a little trick that I use to make the Pico de Gallo much more flavorful. And I'm also gonna show you how to make fresh, floppy flour tortillas from scratch, which as you'll see is actually not hard at all. And with the method that I'm gonna show you, a total beginner can make them without very much time or effort or any special equipment. To get started, I'll grab 2 pounds of skirt steak. I like skirt because it's naturally about 1 inch thick, which means that it cooks quickly to about a medium temperature in the same amount of time that it takes to get it perfectly charred on the outside. It's also very beefy and has an interesting texture thanks to these large, loose muscle fibers. If you can't find skirt, flank steak would be the second best option. It's leaner than skirt, but it still has the flat form factor and that loose muscle structure. Now to get this skirt melt in your mouth tender, I'm gonna grab a jacquarding tool and punch this steak about 10 to 12 times. These little sharp tines are gonna be physically breaking down the muscle fibers, which will make this steak more tender. And since there's a bunch of little holes in the meat now, that's gonna help the marinade soak deeper. Also, if you don't have a jacquard, you can certainly use a sharp fork and poke this about 30 to 40 times. You should just get a jacquard though. It's a great tool that I use all the time to make meat more tender. Link to where I got mine in the description. Next, I'll cut each steak down into 4 pieces that are roughly 6 to 8 ounces. This is gonna make cooking them much easier because whole skirts are like 18 inches long and have a variable thickness. That makes cooking them evenly and moving them around on the grill super difficult. Smaller pieces give you better control over the sear and internal temperature, plus they have more surface area, which means more marinade and more tasty grill flavor. Next, I'll take a few big grips of salt and liberally season both sides of the steaks. I've explained this many times before, but I'll say it again. You need to season meat with salt before you put it in a marinade. I mean, marinades do have some salt in them, but usually it's only enough to make the marinade taste in balance. Meat just needs more salt than that to taste its best, so don't skip this step. Once the skirts are well seasoned on both sides, I'm gonna move them out of the way to do a little bit of dry brining while I grab my blender to make my carne asada marinade. For that, I'll combine 75 grams of oil with 15 grams of soy sauce, 2 chipotle chilies in adobo, or 25 grams worth, 25 grams of garlic, 5 grams of oregano, 5 grams of coriander, 15 grams of smoked paprika, 5 grams of cumin, and then 5 to 7 grams of Mexican bouillon. This stuff tastes like a ramen noodle flavor packet, but Mexican. It's got chicken and tomato powder in it, and also a bunch of other stuff that you really don't want to know about. But yeah, it's salty and it tastes good.
Oh, it's just too salty by itself. It's like if you took all of the powder from 50 bags of Doritos and distilled it. I mean, it has an underlying level of deliciousness, but it's too much for one man.
If you can't find it, or if you aren't gonna get it, you could sub in a little spoonful of Better Than Bouillon chicken base, or use some of that pressed, powdered, dried stuff that comes in a cube. Behind the bouillon, I'll add in 10 grams of ground black pepper, 25 grams of fresh cilantro, then 60 grams of lime juice, which is about 3 medium halves. And then finally, I'll squeeze in 150 grams of orange juice, which is roughly 2 medium oranges. From here, I'll just spin this up on high speed for about 30 seconds until the aromatics and herbs are broken down into a smooth paste. If you don't have a blender, you can make this marinade by hand easily by grating or pressing the garlic into a fine paste, then very finely chop the cilantro, then combine everything into a bowl and stir it together. It's not going to look exactly like the stuff that we make in the blender, but it's going to taste pretty much the same. Back at the blender, once I got this marinade spun up, I'm going to take a closer look. Yeah, that's looking flavorful. Oh my God, dude. Anytime food is reddish orange like this, it probably means that it's gonna taste real sick. Now let's put it on some meat. Next, I'll take my dry brined skirt steaks and sneak them into a freezer bag. Then I'll pour over all of my marinade. From here, I'll toss the steaks to get them totally slathered, and then I'm gonna throw them in the fridge overnight. But Bri, that requires planning. Guys, the overnight marinade makes this like 30% better in terms of taste and texture, so try to plan ahead. But if you're a scrub and you forget or you can't plan, same day carne asada will still work totally fine. The next day, before I cook my steaks, I'm gonna make some elevated Pico de Gallo. But first, I'm gonna thank Element for sponsoring this vid. As you'll see in a few minutes, the day that I chose to film this video ended up being 100 degrees. And so the whole time I was cooking this meat, I was drenched in sweat. These are the days that I really lean on Element to stay hydrated. Today, I mixed up some of Element's citrus salt flavor with heavy ice, a bunch of water, and I even put a little bit of extra salty around the rim to make it hit like a margarita. Because, you know, taco glucose. This electrolyte mix gives me the perfect ratio of sodium, potassium, and magnesium, along with zero sugar and no dyes. Keeping my electrolytes high when I'm sweating this hard really helps maintain my energy and focus, and it helps me avoid the dreaded post-sweat dehydration headache. I truly mean it when I say that I like every element flavor. Shout out to lemonade and watermelon, by the way. But if you're not sure which flavor to choose, you can get a free 8-count sample pack of their most popular drink mix flavors with any purchase at drinklmnt.com/Brian Lagerstrom. If an endorsement from professional athletes, health experts, and a mid-tier food YouTuber aren't enough, Element backs up their product with a no questions asked refund policy, so you can try it risk-free. So if you want to try it, head over to drinklmnt.com/Brian Lagerstrom. To make this pico, I'm going to grab the highest quality tomatoes that I can find and slice them into 1/2-inch planks. In total, I need 300 grams of perfectly diced tomatoes. But this is important. Leave out all the white pithy stuff and the parts that are pure tomato jelly. When it comes to perfect pico, curation is the key. Most people just cut up a tomato and take what they get, but about 30% of a tomato is actually weird and not ideal for pico. If you need to cut up one extra tomato just to make sure that you get the solid fleshy stuff, do that. One more little pro tip to make an excellent pico is to scoop it into a little strainer and remove excessive amounts of tomato water. Some tomato water is good, but this amount is just going to make for a watered down pico. Okay, now the tomatoes are going to go into a bowl, then I'll grab one medium large onion and small dice it. I want the onions to be smaller than the tomatoes, mainly because large raw onions aren't that fun to eat. Now to continue the theme of refinement, I'm going to rinse these onions under cold water to remove the hard sulfury edge that you get when you cut them. Now the onions go into a bowl, then I'll grab one large jalapeno and give it a clean, small dice. As always though, if your mouth is sensitive, there's no shame in using a milder chili like a poblano. If you're a little bad boy and you want this pico to hurt a little bit, upgrade to a serrano. Now 30 grams of diced jalapeno goes into the bowl, then I'll grab a bunch of cilantro and chop that down really finely. I'm only showing a rough chop here, but I ran my knife through this at least 6 or 7 times. Fine chopped cilantro goes into the bowl, then I'll drop in about 30 grams of lime juice, which is just shy of about 2 halves worth. Then finally 8 grams of salt, then I'll jump in and stir to get everything combined. I'll mention that in my pico, I like quite a bit of salt because it draws out a bunch of juice from the tomato, onions, and jalapeno, and it makes a kind of tomato lime marinade that gets reabsorbed into all the veg. And after 20 minutes of sitting in this juice, you can see what I mean. This liquid that it's sitting in is super flavorful, and if we hadn't pitched that 1/2 cup of tomato water earlier, it'd be much more diluted, and overall this pico would just be kind of bland and too wet. Next, before we cook the carne, I want to quickly show you how to make some super fresh floppy tortillas. To make it into a food chopper, I'll add 300 grams of all-purpose flour, 6 grams of salt, and 50 grams of cold cubed butter. Then I'll pop on a lid and spin the butter into the flour for about 30 seconds or until the butter is broken down into little flecks. Next, with the chopper spinning, I'll grab 170 grams of cold water and stream it in through the top until the dough comes together into a blob. If you're thinking about how you could possibly make this dough without a food processor, well, just mix the salt and flour together into a medium bowl, then add in the 50 grams of butter, but this time instead of cubing it, you'll need to grate it on a box grater so that it's easy to incorporate with the flour by hand. Then I'll add in my water and mix this with a spoon until things come together. When I get to the point where I can't stir it anymore, I'll come back with a hand and knead it in the bowl until it comes together into a very rustic dough like this. Yeah, that doesn't look great, but we're gonna need it to make it look proper. Back at the food chopper, as you can see, the dough came together really nicely and it's looking a little better than the hand mixed stuff, but there is no gluten developed and it just tears when I pull it. So for either the food chopper or the hand mixed dough, once things are homogeneous, I'm gonna flip it out onto a cutting board and knead it for about 2 minutes. All I'm doing here is just pushing it out with my palms and rolling it back and switching from hand to hand until the dough is feeling a little bit stronger. I just want to knead this until the dough can hold itself together when I give it a firm tug. And that's looking good. Next, I'll divide the dough into 12 40-gram pieces, or you could cut it into 12 pieces by eye if you want to keep it casual. Then I'm gonna roll up the dough into a tidy little ball. Nothing fancy here, we just want something that's round because that's gonna make rolling it out into a tortilla much easier. Okay, once I've got 12 40-gram balls rolled up, I'm gonna grab a rolling pin and roll this into a roughly 7-inch round. As I go, I'm gonna flip this tortilla once or twice to keep it from sticking to the rolling pin, and I'll hit it with a little bit of flour here to keep things from from sticking. Not too much though, because that's gonna make the tortillas powdery. I'm rolling this out a little bit larger than I need because it's gonna shrink down from 7 inches to 6 when we cook it in a second. Now I'm gonna snatch this tortilla off my cutting board, then drop it into a medium heat nonstick pan and cook it on the first side for about 90 seconds. And once it's starting to get nice and puffy on the backside, I know it's getting really close to flip time. When I do flip it, you can see that it looks pretty. These already look so much more dynamic than store-bought tortillas. Okay, after 30 seconds on the backside, I'm gonna scoot this over to a tortilla warmer to hang out while I cook the rest of these tortillas. Of course, I rolled out the next tortilla while the first one was cooking, and I'll drop that in the pan. And 15 minutes later, I've got all 12 of these tortillas cooked off. They look fantastic, and I highly encourage you to give these a try. All right, it's steak time. As you can see, the marinade has done a great job of soaking into the outer part of the meat. Like, it's nice and stuck on there and it's not gonna slough off on the grill. Now to grill these things, I'm gonna start by spraying the living shit out of the grill with pan spray or wiping it down with copious amounts of oil. Marinated meat loves to get stuck to grill grates, so I always hedge my bets by going all in on spray. Next, I'll drop these steaks onto my grill into 2 neat rows of 4, then I'm gonna rip them over high heat for about 3 to 4 minutes. Since I have to open the lid so much to film these things, this little Weber Spirit grill never really gets to a roaring high heat. So for me, burning is not really a threat here, but if your grill is known for getting really, really hot, you'll just need to pay attention and stay frosty here so that you don't burn the marinade. 3 to 4 minutes later, the first side has been deeply kissed with grilled flavor, and the marinade has gone from a wet paste into a lacquer. From here, I'm gonna flip these steaks over real quick and keep them rolling over very high heat for another 3-ish minutes. I don't know, cook times on grills are very hard to prescribe. The beauty of skirt is that most of the time when both sides have taken on some nice deep grilling, the steak itself is cooked to about medium. And also, I'd much rather be at a higher temperature than a lower one. Rare skirt steak is chewy and honestly not that flavorful. Higher internal temperatures just get more of the meaty juices loosened up and it tastes better.
This looks so good, dude. Grill mark alert. Ooh.
Yeah, dude, that is nicely charred skirt. And the marinade is evaporated. That's an important detail. Now, after a 5 to 10 minute rest, I'm gonna cut these against the grain to see how they look. Oh man, I don't even need to say anything about this, but I will. That looks dope.
My God, that's not just good carne asada. That's some of the best steak I've eaten in a long time.
Now to get this taco ready, I'm gonna slice it, then dice it into 1/2-inch cubes. For me, this is the most pleasurable size for eating. It has a nice meaty chew, but it's not so chewy that I feel like I'm eating a whole steak inside of a tortilla. Now to build this taco, I'm gonna reheat my tortillas because it took me like 90 minutes to film cooking the steaks outside. Then I'm gonna drop on a dollop of smashed avocado and spread that around. This is just a ripe avocado that I hit with a squirt of lime and a pinch of salt and then smushed it all up. And it brings a beautiful creamy richness to the taco. Then I'll drop on a bunch of steak, like 3 to 4 ounces. Then I'll drain off some of my pico and add a large dollop right on top. And for me, that's fresh Mexican defined in one beautiful bite. Like, this has a lot in common with Italian food. It emphasizes fresh, clean flavors and simple ingredients over melted cheese and heavy chili sauce.
For me, obviously, a carne asada taco is all about the steak, and this steak is perfect. Like, literally, I wouldn't change a single thing about it. It's so flavorful, it's so tender, it's got some bright citrus from the orange juice, and it's got a little bit of heat from those chipotle chilies, and a little bit of smokiness. Then you wrap it up with this floppy, fresh, sweet flour tortilla that is really different from a store-bought. Like, it's significantly better if you've never had one before, and I highly encourage you to try them. And you just put the whole thing together, and it is so perfect. Like, it's the perfect taco. It's pure summer, and it's one of the best things that you could possibly cook on a grill.